I would like to start this video off with telling you something that I would never ask for. I prefer warm weather. Given that it's April, we're getting there, right? I would never ask for, and I would never want to see, snow covering the ground in April. It wasn't but just a few weeks ago that it was like 70s here. So thank you, Indiana, for being so temperamental with your weather. But the comical thing is that Victoria's gonna get back from California, where it's nice and hot, and come back to snow. I keep feeling as though I'm not being productive today. Like, it's late in the day and I need to be at least doing something with it. But it's only 11:30, so there isn't really much opportunity for me to do anything. I don't know. I just feel lazy. I think I might go to the grocery store now. Well, I made it to Walmart and got some groceries. I don't know, I was expecting it to be extremely packed at 12 o'clock on a Saturday, but it wasn't that bad. I got into a line that was completely empty and got all my stuff, and it was a decent Walmart experience. Something is not comforting seeing... Well, hold on. Seeing police with their sirens on surrounding the apartment complex. Oh, jeez. I doubt that anyone will inform us of what's going on, but there were cops on either side of the apartment complex over there, so I don't know if they're in the entrance, but if so, then we'll get to converse with some police. So I don't know if you can see that, but at the end of the drive here is yet another police officer. So that makes 3 surrounding our apartment complex, which is, I guess, exciting. Now to attempt to bring up all my groceries up in one trip. No guarantees. So I just saw I saw 2 police officers and a dog walking down the sidewalk, so don't know if it's drugs or not. But definitely sniffing something out. And this might be taken as paranoia, but don't worry, I'm just a bit nosy. I have done nothing today, and I need to figure out something to do to kind of spice it up today. I need to figure out how to make this an interesting video. I haven't found anything yet. We'll see what I can come up with. So after some thought, I have no idea what I can go out and physically do to make this video interesting. And then I had the idea, what if I just went through my photos on my phone, my gallery on my phone, and just decided a topic based on some of the old pictures that I had. So I ended up going through my gallery and I ended up finding about 3 or 4-year-old pictures of me on a trip. In an attempt to keep my storytelling interesting, because frankly I kind of just end up rambling and going on and on, I'm going to try and move around the apartment to kind of break up the me just sitting here and talking, because I don't know, I'm hoping that it'll make it a little bit more interesting. Let's hope. In saying that, I wouldn't be telling you the story if I didn't think that it was at least remotely interesting. And at least for me, it was one of the most memorable and probably going to be one of the most fantastic trips of my young adult life. So let's get into it. So this trip started early July the year after I graduated high school. So I was 18. I was with a group called Young Life, which for me was a organization where I would get to go hang out with some of my best friends, and there was a religious element to it. So for this trip, we got together in Fort Wayne, Indiana, which is where I grew up, and we left early in the morning and flew to Colorado. So the goal of this trip to Colorado was to hike up a mountain. And this wasn't even like standard camping. This was like you go out into the wilderness and you don't have showers, you don't have bathrooms. Our bathrooms were labeled BIFs, and BIF stood for Bathroom in Forest Floor. So we literally dug holes, put rocks around them to use as seats, and went to the restroom in those for the entire trip. So we got our backpacks packed, which were relatively large, especially given my size. I was carrying around like 30 to 40 pounds on my back, which is a lot of weight. If you know camping, that's a lot of weight to have on your back, especially when you're hiking up and then going down and up and down to finally get to the mountain that you're going for. It's not even like you just walk along normal ground and then shoot up. It's up and down and up and down, and then you go up the mountain. And my endurance was definitely tested. There were days where I felt like I was going to physically break down and cry because the exhaustion, the soreness of my muscles were pushing me past a point of continuing. I just wanted to sit there and, well, I was being a baby, but you have to understand that at this altitude, you don't think rationally. This was a week-long journey. Should have started with that. And it wasn't just the weight of the packs that was so exhausting. It was the fact that there were massive boulder fields. I mean, fields of rocks that were like 100 yards long, and you just have to take big steps from boulder to boulder. It wasn't like it was a specifically easy trail. There were streams that went through that we'd have to cross, sometimes taking off your shoes, sometimes trying to jump from rock to rock, even though they were slippery, and we had people falling. So there was a lot more to the trip than just the weight and carrying. I mean, there was exhaustion because of having to do like tougher climbs. I mean, we didn't even have water besides what nature provided. We used our bottles, filled them with iodine, and couldn't drink them for 30 minutes until all the bacteria had been killed. But it was truly brutal. The day before we summited the mountain, we weren't given any warning that that was what we were going to do the next day. They just told us to go to sleep early. And we didn't have, on this trip, we didn't have any means of telling time. They told us not to bring watches. We didn't bring our phones. That was all left in the cars at the trailhead. So the day that we summited, we woke up around 3 o'clock in the morning and hiked up to the summit because we couldn't be up there when the sun was fully going, or else we would have been fried, because the summit was at 12,492 feet, I believe. Oh. Sorry, that was not planned, I promise. So the beautiful thing about us being up there so early was that we got to watch the sunrise over the mountains around us as we stood at the top. And even though the journey was rough, seeing the mountains around us, we watched elk running down the mountain next to us. Seeing that kind of stuff made all the suffering that we had gone through well worth it. We got up to the top of the mountain, and there was snow up there. July, in the middle of the summer, we didn't expect to see snow. And it's not like the weather was particularly cold up there. I mean, at night I'm sure it would have been, but as the sun was rising, it was heating up there enough that we were walking around in shorts and a t-shirt. But there was snow surrounding us. But we made it to the end, and we felt like we were on top of the world. Because seemingly at one point we were. We were at the highest elevation around us. We could see down on everything. So on our way down, our last night, we were taken by our guides individually to our own separate location, where we weren't allowed to go into the other locations and visit anyone. We were totally secluded by ourselves with our backpacks, which had our sleeping bags. We were by ourselves responsible for creating enough. We didn't have tents. We had to make something because it was going to rain that night, and we had to create our own shelter and stuff. What they didn't tell us is that every night, every day that you're walking around out there, apparently a mountain lion is watching you at some point every day. So after being so high, we are now coming down. We were coming down running because we were so excited to finally get to go home and shower. And we came running down and got to the cars. They had been broken into. The windows had been smashed out and everything was gone. And as I said, we had put everything in the suitcases because we weren't supposed to have any idea what time it was or be distracted by anything like that. We were just supposed to be completely surrounded by only nature. So everything was gone. And we had to spend the entire trip back in the same clothes that we had been walking in for the past week, without a shower, and used garbage bags that we had to go buy to use as suitcases because we didn't even have those. Everything was stolen. Now there is a silver lining to this story in the fact that about 8 months later we got all of our stuff back. The guy had apparently cut himself on the window when he broke in and dripped blood. They took a swab, tracked him back. He was apparently stealing for years and years because he had a home filled with stuff. 2 $10,000 Rolex watches. Crazy. I hope you enjoyed the story. I haven't told you about my experiences before, so I hope that this was at least mildly interesting. And I'm sorry that it was so choppy. I think I might have bitten off too much than I could chew by telling you such a big story in such a small amount of time. But maybe it worked. I don't know. So anyway, thank you for watching, and I will see you tomorrow. That was by far the most gruesome movie that I have ever seen. Also, tomorrow is the day that Victoria gets back from California, or gets here. She's already currently in Fort Wayne, but gets back here. I am so excited to see her.